Well, what do you know? Just like that, it's another Tuesday night. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate everybody for joining again. So, tonight we're getting back to something as a lot of you know, really, really enjoy, and that's having guests on and just getting perspective of no matter what the business is or what part of the industry that they're in. So, tonight we'll be joined by one of the owners and co-founders of Watch Hill Proper. So, I don't know how many of you have either been to Watch Hill proper or live in the kind of Louisville, Kentucky or Kentucky area in general. For those of you who have, you understand what kind of special place this is. For those of you who haven't, I think you're going to hear from Tommy, and he'll give you a good idea of just everything from the get-go to where we are now and kind of going forward. And then we'll talk about, as you can see kind of here in front of me, a 20-year single barrel that they have that they'll release. But, we'll get into the wall of whiskey and all that good stuff. But let me first say hi to a few people that were in here or are in here. JG, how's it going, buddy? DMC Prescription Bourbon, good to see you. Mr. Mark Schwartz, good to see you, buddy. Appreciate it. Randall, my man, good to see you, buddy. Roy R. at home, good to see you, Roy. Thanks for the super chat, buddy. Appreciate that. You are in it to win it. Timmy, good to see you, bud. Mr. Roger Reese, good to see you. Mr. Doug Papa. Aaron, the lady who has set all this up. Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate that very much. Mr. Warman, good to see you. Mary, good to see you as well. So a lot of people kind of popping in. Tom, good to see you. Yeah, so this will be a really fun night. And you're going to have a gentleman, just in watching some of their videos and seeing things that they do. They also have a YouTube channel, podcast, all that good stuff. And you'll see Tommy, his personality is infectious. So it's good to kind of talk with people who like to have a good time and kind of are passionate about this industry as I am and as a lot of us are. So without further ado, let me bring on the man of the hour, Mr. Tommy Craggs. How are you, sir? Thank you for joining me.
How's it going?
No, I'm doing fantastic. I've got to give props to Aaron, who reached out, maybe I'm going to say about a month or so ago. And I'll tell you, that is a lady who works hard. And we kind of got to chatting about all of this and got us to where we are now. But I've held off as long as I possibly could to try this 20-year single barrel. I've been smelling it for about an hour.
Yeah.
And I don't want to fast forward through all of the Watch Hill proper stuff, but I'll tell you what, in smelling that thing, I am super, super excited to try it, because if it tastes half as good as it smells, I think we're in for a little treat. So
I believe you are. I have some here. I have a bottle of it here, but I brought some from a bottle that we have open over at the club. So I'll be sipping right with you. And you know what? We did the exceptional one bottle, very similar. Just the only difference was the one on that bottle, and there's a 2 on this one. The proof on the one was 146 hazmat, big. 29 bottles is all we got out of it. This one is just so different. 124, drinks a lot different. And when I tasted them both, one being, we didn't know the yield was, we were thinking maybe 40 bottles. We ended up getting 29. But when I tasted 2, man, there was just something about it. And this was probably 8 or 9 months ago, the first time that I actually tasted it. And I believe that it's gotten better in the bottle for sure.
Boy, I'll tell you, and that oftentimes can be my experience with a lot of single barrels as well. And it's very interesting that when you taste it from the barrel, that's a cool experience. And generally you're with good people and all of that. But, sometimes with these great bourbons, when they get into those bottles and then something happens and then you get those things open, and I don't know if it just, in my mind or whatever, but some amazing things can happen where that whiskey tastes even better than it did out of the barrel, which is an odd thing to say, but I'll tell you, it can be amazing.
Yeah, I think this one did for sure. I think one did also. I think there's something to be said with, how whatever you want to use that, letting, let it open up, or whatever term you want to use there. I do believe that there's something to there. I think one may have been a little even more drastic than 2, because I was convinced that 2, if you just ask my opinion, I have held fast that 2 was better than 1. And then tasting 1, Josh and I tasted 1 again the other night, and it's like, I don't know now. I don't know. they're both good. You know, here's the thing, man. They're 20-year Kentucky straight bourbon. One of them's 146 proof. The other one's 124 proof. There's nothing bad in anything that I just said.
No, not nothing. And you know, let's just call it what it is. I mean, our opportunities to try 20-year-old bourbon these days is slim to none. You know, so just the opportunity, and I was thankful to get two of these, and I wanted to share like one of these with somebody who's part of tonight to get an opportunity to try something that I've not had a huge opportunity to try a lot of these kind of aged bourbons. So for not only myself, but for somebody else tonight, I think they're in for a heck of a treat. So,
did you give one of them away?
I'm going to tonight. Tonight is
awesome.
tonight will be part of the drawing. So somebody will get an opportunity to try this 20-year-old bourbon. So I'm oftentimes probably like you a little bit. You're always excited to either, you know, hear and watch and see everyone's reaction and get their thoughts on a particular bourbon. More so than when I taste them, I'm always very curious to just see and hear everybody else's kind of reaction to a particular, you know, whiskey. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun once I know who it is that wins to kind of get in touch with them and see what they think. So.
That's awesome. Awesome.
So let's do this. So let's kind of go back. I'm always curious as to we know exactly where we are kind of with Watch Hill proper and all of that. But what was your kind of start when you kind of go back? What was it that you kind of got you into bourbon? Like, yeah.
So I'll kind of go in reverse. So I was at Watch Hill. I mean, I was at Heaven Hill, and I loved it there. There was nothing that would have made me leave Heaven Hill except for something like Watch Hill proper. I loved Heaven Hill. I loved working there. I loved the people that I worked with. It was just the job that I could have seen myself working for the next 20 years and loved every day. I went to work. They let me kind of do a lot of what I wanted to do, whether that be a lot of just talking bourbon with folks. And that's what I love to do. Lots of tastings and that type of thing. Before that, I was worked in liquor store, and I've been, in the bar business. And so, I have been around this. I was, it's so funny is I tell people that I started drinking Maker's Mark way before I should have been drinking Maker's Mark. And that held true I have friends that we still go back sometime and just have a Maker's night. Because we still love Maker's Mark. I love that they have other expressions now, but still love Maker's Mark. But that was kind of what my, gateway was from, I was still drinking Budweiser every now and then, but like whatever kind of nasty beer that I was drinking back then. But then you go to the Evan Williams and Coke and that. And so this is when, I'm young and you're tailgating. You shouldn't be drinking straight whiskey to start. So you start with the Coke or the Diet, whatever. And then, just when I got into the liquor store, worked with some friends of mine, and we were all bourbon guys, man. It's what we did. And so that was the thing. You worked hard, you played bourbon hard, and then being able to go to Heaven Hill, and then being able to open up Watch Hill. It's been a great journey, man. I mean, this is something that I'm passionate about, and you hear people say it all the time. And I hope that you fall into this, is that, you don't dread waking up in the morning and going to work. And I don't. I love going over there to Watch Hill when nobody's there and doing what I need to do. But I sit there and I just think how blessed that Josh and I are, because we are certainly very blessed.
Yeah. I mean, you're kind of. I'm sure there's obviously the good and bad days that everybody has, but I guess going back to like the conception, because I mean, there's an awful lot of people out there who have all of these thoughts and ideas in their mind that they are never either able to kind of move forward on, but both you and Josh did. So the conception of this, how did that kind of all start? Like, I know, like, just probably from being enthusiasts to the point where it is now. I'm kind of always interested to hear kind of how that all started for you guys.
So Josh and I were bleacher dads. We used to watch our kids play baseball. And so everyone knows Josh has another business. He's an engineer. He owns a nice big engineering firm here locally called Blue Energy Group. And so occasionally, sporadically, he may bring a group of people down to Heaven Hill, clients of his, and I would maybe give them a behind the scenes tour, that type of thing. So we were bleacher dads, and we would talk bourbon, and you know, I don't know exactly how the first conversation start, but the way that I kind of remember it is with Josh asking me, "Hey, has there ever been an idea that you have thought about, but you just never saw it all the way through?"
Mhm.
There were a couple. The one that kind of stuck out is, you know, when we were doing this in 2020, first of all, it's COVID, but there were so many social media, social bourbon groups online, but those groups really didn't have a brick and mortar to go to. So our first thought was that we were going to buy a house, gut it, kind of make it really bourbon centric to where we could rent it out to these groups on the weekends, have their bottle shares, their tastings, whatever they wanted to do, then do it again the next week. And so that idea literally lasted about 4 minutes. We went to and looked at one spot. It really wasn't what we were thinking that we wanted to do. So we turned into Norton Commons, which is a community right outside of Louisville. And we saw this building. It was just a white shell. And there was a girl who kind of walked in front of our car, and we said, "Hey, what do you know about this building?" And she said, "Well, I'm the agent on that building. I know pretty well everything about that." So we kind of got out and told her what our idea was in this plan that we had kind of formulated. And this was a lot of talking. Our wives, we probably drove our wives sick. We talked on the phone a lot, just comparing ideas and making something that was very, very Kentucky, very, very bourbon for these small craft places who couldn't find shelf space anywhere. We wanted all of them. And so I did a couple talks at the ADI or wherever, and I would say, "Look, we're building this thing, man. We want you all to have a bourbon spot on our shelves." And it was a hit. They loved it because nobody had ever gone to them and said, "Look, this is what we want to do. We're doing this for these craft experience people who are out there making really good whiskey." We also wanted it for the state of Kentucky, the city of Louisville. They deserved it. We're the bourbon capital of the world, and there was nothing that existed like this. Josh and I got on a jet and went. We got on a plane and went to these places that we had heard might be similar, and nothing was exactly like what we wanted to do. We wanted to make it to where if you walked in and you had a bucket list and you said, "You know what? I really want to make sure that at some point I can taste, 2003 Pappy Van Winkle 23 year." We wanted to have it so you could check it off your bucket list and make it that kind of a place. And so that's what we did. And, we thank goodness Kentucky has the bourbon vintage spirit law. It has helped us on numerous occasions. So we started, Josh and I had pretty good collections between us. And so that was part of the wall. That was a big part of the wall of emptying out our basements and putting them now on this big bourbon wall. But that's kind of how it started. It's so funny that the guy who developed the community, he didn't like the idea at all, and he was kind of like, "I would never let something like that go into one of my communities." He goes, "It just doesn't make any sense." Our tagline from the start was "Nothing foreign, nothing clear, and no beer." And he was like, "How can you have a bar with no vodka and no beer?" And it was like, "Well, we're making it. It's an American whiskey bar, and that's it. That's all you can get, along with wine." And he just didn't get it. And so Josh and I had talked about a business plan. Josh wrote the business plan. Josh obviously did a wonderful job on writing this business plan because the guy had been a developer for many years, and he sent back to us saying it was the best business plan that he had ever read and that he would give us some time. And so we talked to him. He still thought the idea was stupid, but he gave us a shot, man. So there you go.
Well, and that's the thing, that you get a foot in the door, and for every idea that people have for others, it's not necessarily their thing. So you guys kind of stayed passionate and tried and true about your idea of it kind of coming to fruition, and look at where you are now. You can't.
Yeah.
I hate to say you gotta force people away, but I mean, every time I've been there, the place is packed, and it's an absolutely amazing place. It's super inviting for anybody who, like all of us, who enjoy whiskey, the community, and being with people. It is very much the feel of just walking into a place where they're all your friends. That's the feeling.
Yeah, we wanted that atmosphere, and You know, there are certain things. I mean, I think that, getting Michael Crouch and, as our chef, I mean, Josh and I debated for a while whether we were going to put a hood system in to have like this, a regular kind of kitchen. We didn't know if we were just going to be a warming kitchen where we would do charcuterie or, tuna fish sandwiches or whatever we may have done. Yeah. So that was a great decision on our part. I mean, we've talked about it and we laugh about it now. It's like, we can't imagine if we didn't have Chef Michael Crouch with us. I mean, it's just, he's that guy. He has been with us from the start. Michael took a chance with us. Michael's cooked at some of the finest places in the city of Louisville, and not just in Louisville, all over the region and even out of the country. And for him to take a chance and say, I have to be a part of this. I worked with Carla Green. Carla Green moved on, and I knew I wouldn't have Carla that long. I still give Carla a lot of love. Carla Green is, to me, is the best mixologist as far as thinking, as far as knowing what works with each other. She left our bar in great hands. We have a couple bar leads now that are just so creative. They crack me up on say they were bound and determined, because the tagline, nothing foreign, nothing clear, and no beer. They were adamant that they were going to make a beer out of whiskey. And I was like, that's not going to happen. And so I would taste all the iterations. In the first 1 or 2, 3, I was like, nah, that is not going to happen because it's not going to pass as a beer. And they kept getting closer on the appearance and then the head on it. And it was like, oh, and I remember tasting this. I used to sit at the same table every morning when I did my paperwork. They bring it over and I taste it. And it was like, you got to be kidding me that they have done a beer. It looked like a summer shanty. If you've ever drinking summer shanty.
Yeah.
It looked just like that beer, and the taste of it was amazing. So they've done 2 of those. They love to prove me wrong, and I so love when they prove me wrong. I GM'd the place for the first year. I say it half-heartedly, jokingly. Everybody's glad that year's up. I was fair to Midland at being a GM. I people skills in that I had, but I didn't know how to teach them. I've never been a server.
Right.
So I don't know how to teach them how to be a server. Yeah. And then we ended up with Chris Ballou, who is our general manager now. And he's proven what a good GM can do with, with the weapons, and he's done things that Josh and I, some of the things we've thought about, but we couldn't get it to go, and other things that Josh and I never even thought about that he said, let's go in this direction. And so, he's been very good for us. He, along with my son is kind of our floor manager. Chris is our GM, and they work very well. And, listen, Watch Hill is what Watch Hill is. And the people that come in there, they expect a standard, and we better deliver on it. And the thing with Chris, service is it's like ingrained in him. He can't stand the thought of someone coming to Watch Hill proper and not having a great experience. It drives him nuts. It drives Josh and I nuts because it should. It drives him completely nuts. He just can't stand it. He's got this, he's the type that if he found out that they did, he's either, I don't know if he would drive to their house. That may be a little creepy, but I could certainly see him making a phone call. It's just, but that's passion. That's what he brings 100%. To us. And like I said, along with Michael Crouch, this passion that they have. Chef's team with Rob and the people that he has assimilated back there are just, they're badass. And let me tell you, their kitchen is not that big. We have to hear about this all the time. And they cook in a shoebox. And the volume of food, quality food that they put out of the kitchen, it's amazing, man. We're so blessed to have this staff. You don't understand. People say that, and sometimes I forget to say it enough, but it's not Josh and I, not anymore.
Yeah.
It's them.
Well, it's the recipe for success, and having good people amongst your business is what helps you guys look good to everybody else. That means like the business. So when you've got great people running a great business, generally speaking, you've got a great product no matter what it is. And I think anytime you've got, a good support team, when everybody is supporting anybody and everybody is able to work cohesively together, especially when you're doing what you're doing, because when you're there, you know it, you see it. It's hustle bustle. Everybody's moving. It's the song and dance, and everything is working kind of together. And that's the amazing thing of being at a place like your establishment, is seeing all of that, where it's an organized chaos. That's kind of what,
Yeah, for sure.
it looks like they've all been through it, and they know exactly what their role and what their part is to make sure that everybody else is doing and operating efficiently.
Yeah, that's a nail on the head. Yeah, I mean, it is organized chaos. I sit back and watch it sometimes. I'm in there, for a while. During the day I'm in there more often, but man, at night I'll come and I'll talk to the people we have a membership element to the club, and these people who are from out of town, for whatever reason, they like talking to the owners when we're in there. And so, but I pay so close attention to what is going on there. It's crazy. I mean, we're the largest American whiskey bar in the world. If you would have asked Josh and I in 2020 if that was what we were setting out to do, it is a resounding absolutely not. We had no idea. So I do love the fact that this staff that we have, they get to say, hey, we work at the largest American whiskey bar in the world. That's pretty cool.
It's a very cool thing. I'll tell you, when I first went there, and this is probably, I'm going to say maybe 3 years ago, tops.
Wouldn't be 3 years ago. We'll be April 8th.
Okay. So it must've been shortly after you guys had opened. Yeah, definitely 2 years ago. It'd be 2 summers ago is when it was. So when I walked in, I mean, it was just like amazing. Like I didn't expect that. I've been in some other whiskey bars where, nice displays and all that. And then you walk into this place, and it's like, if you could envision the greatest man or woman cave that involved like whiskey, this is what like the dream would be. And as some of you guys can see behind us right here is the lobby, the bar, where as you guys can see up here to the top, that's the wall of whiskey, and then the barrels up by the ceiling. I mean, it is an absolutely amazing and inviting place. So if you've never been, I'll say go. For those of you who have been, and I'm sure you continue to go. But let's do this. I guess for anybody who has been or even hasn't been, the description of the I'll say establishment. I hate to call this a bar. I feel like when I say bar, like I'm somehow like downplaying this. So I mean, this place is amazing. So I guess just Watch Hill proper in a nutshell. What is all of that to you and Josh and everybody?
So I used to call it a bar too, and I still do sometimes. And then club is the word that I probably use more than anything. Club sometimes can get you in trouble because it sounds like, oh, you have to be a member. And that was one of the biggest mistakes I think that Josh and I made, me in particular, because I did a ton of press when we were opening up. And, we would talk about the membership element to it. And people for a long time actually thought that you had to be a member to come in to the club. And so we would get tons of phone calls every day, and people saying, hey, are you ever going to have a night where you let the general public in? It's like, yeah, get in your car and come right now, And so we pulled back on that. The membership to me kind of takes care of itself. We still get, 1 or 2 members a week, probably average. And, we don't know where the cap is on the membership, but, if someone wants to talk about it, we certainly still love to talk about being a member because the perks are so good. And we now have implemented a bottle club and that type of thing, which, we're doing our own whiskey now, man. So that being in that bottle club allows you to get some of the whiskeys that we are, blending and coming up with. So that's cool. But, I don't know. I mean, I feel, if you had to put a title on it, I think we are officially listed as a restaurant now. I think we had to change that up, when you start doing a certain amount of food or whatever. So I think what we would be called, I guess legally would be a restaurant. I still say club. If you look at a lot of our very original literature and flyers, it was Watch Hill proper, a bourbon club. So I'll stick with that.
Yeah.
I do still call us a bar sometimes. But bar does.
Well,
Well, I worked in some bars. Watcher doesn't look anything like some of the bars I've worked
no,
with.
no, it is definitely that. I mean, I would say it does have that club cigar lounge feel with
Yeah,
great
for sure.
whiskeys and
Yeah.
great people that are there. So when people come and they're there, what can they kind of expect from you guys at Watch Hill proper?
So, first of all, the pours, the wall. If you come in and you've never been there, I would recommend sitting at the bar. I think you get dinner and a show because we have whiskey hustlers who are going up and down the ladder. So you're getting to see everything kind of working as it's going. I mean, you're seeing from the server giving the drink order to the bartender or the mixologist making the drink to the server picking it back up and taking it and then pulling the bottle, getting the bottle back. So listen, it's about 20 on the wall these days is probably about, I don't know, 2,300 unique labels. Getting the bottle is one thing, but making sure that bottle ends up in the right spot back is just as important because we have had bottles that didn't end up. And let me tell you, looking through 70 cubbies that hold 35 bottles each it is what it is. But so I don't know. I forget. I even forget where I was going.
No, yeah, it's
think,
one of those things. There has to be an order to that madness because if it's just a random order, like you would never find anything in that.
Oh no.
In that thing, like there has to be a system. But yeah, I would agree. Just watching somebody. You hate to say you hope your whiskey is like way up high, like in a corner, just to watch the whole process or whatever. But there's something about someone with that wall that you guys can partially see behind us. Track your whiskey down, get it in the glass, and enjoy it with whomever it is that you're there with. I mean, it's just a cool process. It's a great environment. Like I don't know how else to tell. Like I tell people, like anybody who's asked, hey, where should we go when we're visiting, Louisville or on the Bourbon Trail, and Watch Hill proper is always a place I tell people to go. I tell them, you don't have to go there with the expectation of, spending $1 million. Just go. Like there's anything and everything that you guys have, so, I know this stuff can be oftentimes when you go to a place can be intimidating, especially if you're not, ultimately aware or know exactly what it is you're looking for. Trying to figure things out can be intimidating sometimes, just like being at a liquor store these days. But I tell people, go there, take your time. If you don't know, ask somebody. They're happy to help you. And that was kind of what one of my observations was the amount of times people just asked like recommendations and all of that. And everybody was always friendly and willing to help out.
For sure. Our staff there again, going back to the staff, they're amazing. They're learning, we're asking a lot of them. We're asking them to kind of learn brands and bottles and recommendation and flights and that type of thing. And so we want you to ask, listen, you've seen our bourbon book. It's 3/4 of an inch, if not an inch thick. I mean, and so it can be a little intimidating, but we love we have people who give such good recommendations, and it all starts with asking a couple questions. Are you a bourbon drinker? What do you like? Are you a rye guy? Are you a bourbon? Whatever it may be, and they can kind of formulate, what your palate is about. They've gotten really good at it. The ones who have been with us and stuck with us, they have taken the initiative to learn that book, and so it's crazy. We have some whiskey hustlers that blow me away. We have every bottle is numbered. And you think about how many bottles, there's probably 4,000 bottles in the house, 23 or so hundred on the main wall, and they all have an ID number. And I'll be looking through the book and they'll be like, what are you looking for? And I'm like, I'm looking for, Weller Antique, this about, and they'll just be able to wheel off that number that's on the back of that bottle like it's nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy that they take it very seriously. They're very good at what they do. But learning the numbers, it's not easy. It's not easy to work there. And the food, I mean, Michael's menu is not the easiest menu. You were asking about what they should expect. If you come in there, you expect what we're known for, what we originally were known for, and that's the largest American whiskey bar. We have tons of bourbon. We have great bourbon, vintage bourbon, all the bourbon you want. But then you look at that menu and you realize that you're getting, this menu curated by Michael Crouch, who is just, he in this city and in this region, Michael Crouch is something, and we're very happy to have him.
I'll tell you, he when I was there for an event with some of the Foregate guys, he had put some stuff together, and we were kind of just chatting a little bit at the table. I told him, I said, and I knew I had a chance to kind of like see that kitchen. I said, man, you are like a magician. What you do in that kitchen is wonders, to be able to do and put the food out that you do, and to be as timely as he is. I mean, you'd think he was back there working in a kitchen that was 10 times the size. I mean, so props to him and his staff and everybody that he does. I mean, that's a great
and so unfortunately, now that you said that and we're on this, I'm never gonna hear he's gonna be like, see the guy interviewing you.
Yeah.
See, he's he's telling the truth. He tells you how small my kitchen is. I have to hear it all the time. I love him. We go back and forth because we understand what he's doing back there. It's just freaking impressive. All right, you're right. I wish I could give him one 8 or 10 times bigger, man. We're kind of landlocked right now, so I don't know.
Well, he's I'm sure he's used to working his magic and what he's got. So I'd say keep doing your thing. But I was gonna ask you, does that wall intimidate you from a standpoint of the expectation to continue to maintain that? I mean, to have a reputation like you guys do, a big responsibility is to then be able to deliver. So how do you manage that wall?
It does. And so I will be completely forthright. Josh is the one who really, Chris, our GM now, is taking over parts of it. But as far as a lot of the buying and the finding and that type of thing, it all falls on Josh. Josh, I think with Josh, it's a way that keeps him involved in there. Everybody, we understand that Josh can't be there like I can, or like Chris can, or anybody else that works there. He has another huge business that he has to run. So I think him being able to keep, being a part of it and buying the whiskey and keeping those, shelves. He hates it. He couldn't stand it. I remember when we were very first opening, he said he never wanted to have one of our servers ever say, we're out of that. He just didn't want to hear it. And it has happened. Some bottles just go way quicker than we can even find them.
Right.
But so that wall is a testament to him finding deals and doing paperwork on the Kentucky Vintage Spirit Law. And our GM, like I said, Chris, has taken over a part of it. I have very, very little to do with the day-to-day on the wall, other than picking out a nice pour that I want to drink for the evening. That
was going to be another question. So for a man who can have, let's just say just about anything, what is your kind of daily go-to? I know you had mentioned makers before, but have you gone beyond that? Like, what is your kind of nice daily pour that you don't?
So I will show you, right? I will show you what I am sipping on this evening. So Elijah Craig 94 is usually that's my jam. I love Heaven Hill products. Tonight I'm actually having Wild Turkey 101. I'm old school, man. To me, and I shouldn't even say that because I don't want to, the people start buying it up and it'll be gone like everything else. But I usually have 3 or 4 open. I always have a bottle of Knob Creek open.
Yeah.
Always have Elijah 94. Wild Turkey I drink barrel proof bourbon usually on days that I don't have to work the next day.
Mm-hmm.
It gets tasting too good. My palate is very hot.
Yeah.
Elijah Craig 94 is really the only thing under 100 proof that I drink. 80 proof and 90 proof whiskey to me is kind of like, something you put on your cereal. It's just, there's just not a lot to it.
Yeah. No.
But I do, Elijah Craig, I'm a Heaven Hill homer. I love it. I've been drinking it for a long time, but those are, if I'm out, if I'm splurging a little bit, I do love Baker's from Beam. I'm pretty well equal opportunity. I don't like really wheat whiskey that's under 100 proof. I don't think wheat should be, I don't think any wheated bourbon should be under 100 proof. It just, to me, it doesn't taste that well.
Yeah.
But I love Antique 107 from Buffalo Trace, and I love Knob Creek and Baker's, from Beam, and the Heaven Hill lineup. I can go on and on. The Red Label 101. Their bottled and bond. I can go on and on. So I pretty well have a favorite.
Equal opportunity, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's so funny though. I love to tell that Josh and I's palate. If you've ever, we do a little review show. I think there's 10 or 12 people that watch it every week. But it's so funny because our palates are so different. We will agree on certain things at certain times, but he's not a huge Wild Turkey fan. He thinks it's all grandma's attic. He does love him some Beam products and MGP products, but Heaven Hill, he's probably 50-50 on. But I mean, when we review, some of our reviews are just funny because, I'm talking about my love for it, and he's over there making faces like, "Are you out of your mind, man?"
What? I'm curious. What is his kind of palate? What does he kind of lean towards typically?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Beam, and he likes Beam and MGP. He's a big fan of, and I like MGP. Makes some good whiskey. Some of the older MGP stuff, man, it's just so solid whiskey, man. I mean, back like the old Scout stuff that the VS stuff. I mean, some of that, man, that vintage whiskey is just crazy good, and they make good whiskey. I mean, when Greg Metz was there, Greg Metz is a world-class whiskey maker, and so you're still some of the stuff that's there now. You're getting vintage Greg Metz stuff, and so that's kind of his palate. He likes some craft stuff also, but I would say Beam and MGP is probably him. Where I'm more, Wild Turkey, Heaven Hill. So some of our reviews are pretty funny.
Well, at times, I mean, I think that can really be as different as people can have with their palates. I think oftentimes that works like really well, because what it kind of forces you to do is get the best of both of what it is you each kind of are looking for. So there becomes this kind of compromise, or this little kind of whiskey dance, so to speak. So I think sometimes that can be kind of a fun thing. I know, you're probably always trying to convince each other that what it is you like is best, or whatever that may be, but that's always the fun part again. And this, the fun part of whiskey is that each person can enjoy whatever it is they enjoy and have just as much fun as the other person that enjoys the thing that you dislike the most. So that's the cool thing about whiskey.
I think we try to give the bourbons that we review, I think we try to find the good in them. When I was at Heaven Hill, they're the type of company that there's no bashing when you're doing tours or whatever. We're not bashing Beam or Buffalo Trace or that. You find the good in all of them, because there is good in all of them. And there is this kind of, bourbon brotherhood, bourbon close-knit behind the scenes that, that they help each other out a lot. And what was so cool about being at Watch Hill, leaving Heaven Hill, is like, I didn't have any loyalties. I can tell exactly what I want to say, but I don't do that. I mean, we try. Here's the thing, and Michael Veach, I don't know if you read Michael Veach. Veach,
I know him. Yeah,
he's as good a bourbon writer as there is in the world. But I asked Michael, the rite of passage with Michael Veach is that you sit on his porch and you drink bourbon or drink whiskey with him. And he tells his stories, and it's kind of a rite of passage. And so Josh and I were fortunate enough to get to do that with Michael. But I asked him, I said, why, you don't ever write a bad review about a bourbon? And he said, I do. He goes, you just don't read them. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, if the bourbons that I like are the ones that I review, and you're waiting for a review of this specific bourbon and it doesn't exist, guess what?
That's a good.
And so I have that same mentality now. When we're doing, we have stopped the video in mid video after I've tasted it. And it's like, I'm not going to review this, because if I do, it's probably this person or whoever worked very hard on it, but it sucks. And I don't want to say that on camera. So I've kind of softened up as I've gotten older.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a fair point. And oftentimes in kind of doing reviews and other things like that, people will say to you, how come you never will talk bad about a whiskey. And one thing I always made a conscious effort to not do was like, one, like rank or put a number on it. Like I never really associate. I've seen so many wines have these big high ratings that are $10 all the way up to 1,000. They have the same number. So I got to thinking, like, what is a number in relation to anything? And then the other thing I always thought about was, what I like the most or the best. I've never felt like I'm in a position to tell somebody what is bad or good. That is not my job. I just want to be the person that is giving you what it is that I'm either nosing and tasting. If you appreciate that, great. If you don't, that's fine too. But there's a lot of people, as you probably run into, that want to really just try to influence a lot of people in either a really good way or a negative way. And I've always felt, whatever that is, your interpretation, then it is what it is. I'm in no position to tell you good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah. 90% of all of the American whiskey being made, I would say it's right at about 90%. I can find something good. Now, I may find more bad in that whiskey, but there's usually at least something that I can find, something in the mid palate, something with the finish, the way that it knows, something. I may not like it, but usually I can find something. And, so we'll try to, we kind of have our Mendoza line is usually right at a 5. And I think the stuff that we review, I don't really know that we've ever reviewed anything that got right at a 6 or a high 5. I don't think we have. Usually if we're reviewing it, we've given some 7, some 7.1, 7.2s. I think since we've been doing it, we've done this. Coming up Thursday will be our we've done a review every week for a year. I think we've given maybe 3 or 4 90s. That's it. Heaven Hill 18 got a 20, got a 90. Angels NB Cash Strength Rye, the first rye that they did, got a 90. King of Kentucky. I think there's only 3 or 4 that have gotten that number.
Yeah, the ones that are special. And I've always, like, with mine, like, it's pretty easy. Like, I start gushing over it, and it's not even difficult for anybody to figure out half the time what the hell it is that I like or even dislike. I use choice words probably when there's things that aren't, things I enjoy the most, so I kind of leave it at that. But at the end of the day, like, whiskey is one of those things. Enjoy whatever it is you like, and leave it at that, so
for sure.
that it's such a great thing. But somebody, JG, put in here before, what is your rarest whiskey? Do you know what the rarest whiskey you've got right now is? Or
so the rarest whiskey would not be the oldest whiskey. So the rarest whiskey that we probably have, we certainly have like the Double Eagle and all those. Those were expensive back in the day, and they're still expensive. They're still, $4,000 or $5,000 a bottle now. The rarest whiskey would probably be a whiskey that was actually sold at a downtown called the Seelbach back in 1983, I believe. We have they did a Rathskeller Rye and they did a Speakeasy Select, and back then I think you could buy those bottles 1983 for maybe $100 a bottle, which was just crazy. So we get a call from a guy, and I believe he's out of North Carolina, and he said, "Look, I just had we had a family get together, and a friend from Kentucky was there, and he saw that we had they bought 2 Rathskeller Ryes and 2 Speakeasy Selects. They only had 1 Speakeasy Select left. I guess they had drank it or whatever. And the guy from Kentucky said, 'Look, I don't know if you know what you have there, but those are very rare.' So he called us, and we have some authenticator. I'm a pretty good authenticator. When it gets into that, it's out of my pay grade. So we have a couple guys who can authenticate, and they did send us some high def pictures and said, if you guys are interested, I think these are the real deal." Wow. So they brought them back. We looked at them. We ended up making the deal. I think at the last auction, either the Rathskeller or the Speakeasy, I think did somewhere around $40,000, maybe 45 grand per bottle. So that's as far as hard to get, rare. I would say that's probably we have big ideas for those bourbons though.
Boy, I don't know. I know my something happened to my camera. I'm not exactly sure. I'm going to monkey around with it here for a second, but
But we have big intentions for those whiskeys. We are actually going to do a charitable event where pretty well the proceedings for the night, including us raffling off one of the bottles and pouring the other two, we're going to give the whole night away to a charity. So
oh,
we love doing that.
unbelievable.
It's fun.
I wish this is the fun part right here, the good old technical difficulties right
Yeah,
here. I'm
man.
not
Whatever
exactly
you got to do. I'm just drinking whiskey, buddy.
I'm trying to figure out right now what's going on with my camera right now. So but I guess while we're doing that, let's do a little bit of this, and I'll monkey around with this thing for a second. But let's get into the actual single barrel. Do you want to kind of share a little bit of kind of about this and the process with this one?
I will. So, like I said earlier, Josh and I, we knew that we wanted to do a series of whiskeys that were kind of mind-blowing whiskeys. We didn't want to name it mind-blowing whiskeys, but we wanted something that you couldn't get. And until we found it, we weren't going to release it, because we found a couple whiskeys. We found a 15-year-old. We found a 17-year-old, I believe, 15 or 16-year-old that was close. But it didn't have that hit you in the face kind of thing. And so we waited, and for a couple of years, we found some whiskey about a year and a half ago, and the people were just like, nope, we have 4 or 6 barrels of it. We have no intention on selling. So we pestered them, and we had other people pester them. And so finally, the family relented and said, we will let you taste 2 of the barrels. That's it. If you don't want one of those, that's it. We won't talk about it again.
Damn.
So we tasted the very first one, and that was the one, exceptional one, that had the yield of 29 bottles. And it was like, holy cow, how much is this going to cost? Because when you tasted it, it was just like, it was crazy. So we tasted exceptional 2, the one that we're getting ready to taste now. And I thought, man, one, the yield made it so appealing. The 146 proof, the hazmat made it so appealing. But as far as taste, number 2, I just thought beat 1 easily. So let's fast forward a little bit. This was about 8 or 9 months ago when Josh and I tasted it in a rick house. It was pretty chilly.
Mm-hmm.
We tasted, and so going through the process, we come up with a number. Josh and I fall out of our chairs, hit our heads, and are unconscious for a while. We wake up and realize what the number she just said. And so we ended up making the deal. And so when they were both bottled, we tasted them again. And that's when 1 elevated up on 2. 2 still stayed the same. 2 solid. I mean, think of just vintage William LaRue Weller. I mean, it's a different taste, but just it has that, that mouthfeel, that big, bold mouthfeel. Is that a pour of it right there? Because
it is, and I opened this, or I poured this about 30 minutes before we even went live. So it's been sitting in here now for a little while, and
you'll love it that it opened up like that.
Yeah, just smelling this thing. I mean, right away to have. I'll say this. I mean, to have a 20-year-old bourbon smell this way without that feeling of it being over oaked or that really heavy kind of char feel. This is that nice, beautiful, concentrated, oh
my gosh,
dark, molasses, brown sugars, heavy kind of cherry notes, beautiful oak spices there. I haven't even tasted this thing yet. I mean, it is a beautiful, beautiful nose.
So funny. So the first one for $2,500 a bottle. We had 22 of them to sell. We of course put a couple on the wall. We had a couple back that we will eventually give to charities at some point. And then this one, the yield was 102. And so it sold out pretty quick. We probably had 110 or 20 people that signed up for it. Some of the ones that got it. And then, when it came about, we ended up still having a couple bottles of this left, with people either backing out or, they didn't like the $900 price tag or whatever. Right. So we actually still have a couple bottles of this left. that we are getting ready. We'll put it on our website or something, but it was sold out, and then all of a sudden it wasn't sold out, and so that was like, okay, that's cool.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, it's just the opportunity to have the opportunity to try a cast strength 20-year-old bourbon is not something that comes around very often. So, when you start talking kind of unicorn type stuff, this in this market kind of falls into that category.
It does, for sure. I would agree.
All right, I gotta try this thing. I've been smelling it forever. So, cheers! Thanks for joining tonight. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Hold that on your tongue for 3 or 4 seconds. It's just crazy.
Man, oh man. It just has that taste of an old whiskey that doesn't really exist any longer. You don't get that flavor profile.
You don't, especially on the finish. The finish is a cowboy riding through Montana in a field. It has that cowboy finish that is so unique, and I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody else. It makes sense to me. Is that it's just a big boy whiskey. The front, the nose is fantastic. The front palate is good. Mid palate is my favorite. But on the finish, you get that vintage note that does not exist in bourbon anymore.
No, that is an old school like bourbon profile that you got from those old whiskeys. And I guess I'm just trying to wrap my mind around that. That's just not something you really get. That you really get.
This is better tonight, right now, than it was. I had it a couple nights ago with Josh, and it's even better tonight. That finish is just gotten better.
I love when you get that kind of oak. And sometimes, you'll hear people refer to that dusty or that old kind of profile. This has that, but that refined oak and fruit and molasses and brown sugars, you can describe all of that, but unless you've tasted that, this would be a really new thing to an awful lot of people, because this is not something that's around at all.
That's a great point. That's a really, really good point, is that, some people may have never had whiskeys that have that type of finish. That's a really good point.
Yeah. That mid palate, the finish, man, oh man.
The thing about the word, dusty, is that sometimes a dusty can really hold true to its name and be a dusty that kind of sucks.
Correct. I agree 100%.
There's some dusties out there that people are like, oh, I really have to find this. And it's like, nah, you don't.
Yeah.
You really don't. It's not that good. But there's other dusties, and I think this falls into the dusty of, wow, that dusty doesn't exist anymore. They're not making finishes, like that anymore. No modern whiskey finishes like that.
No, this is not something that you can create, and the only thing that's going to do this is time. And honestly, to be lucky that a whiskey like this, it has not just been taken over by the barrel and be nothing but kind of a cinder mess. And this is none of that. I mean, I would consider you guys extremely lucky to have gotten something like this. This is
so too.
Very
because
special,
this was never in a tote. This was never in a tote. This was straight. This was still in the barrel 20 years later, which is crazy.
It feels like, with it being 20 years old, that somewhere along the way, this thing had to have gotten lowered to a lower part of the rick house to stop that oaking process.
Yeah. The what we know minimally about what we know about it is, and I could be wrong on this, I believe the guy who kind of got the deal together for us, I believe he said the family that owned these barrels had owned them since new make.
Really?
I think he said, I can't remember. It seems like I had this conversation and he was like, yeah, this is pretty well been. If it wasn't new make, they bought them very early on. They bought them at maybe 2 or 3. I remember having this conversation. He's a buddy of mine and we have a lot of bourbon conversations, but it seems like he was like, yeah, it's crazy because they've had this either since infancy or 2 or 3 years old, which is just crazy. And unfortunately, it's pretty well gone.
Yeah.
I wish I could get some more, but
yeah, there's not much of this. I mean, I've seen recently, like a lot of people know, like some 15-year-old stuff popping up, and those are probably in that $300 or $400 range. And we know like some of the prices of some of these like limited editions have gone crazy. But when you put something like this in context, where if people are buying, secondary things, a whiskey like this for $900, like you feel really good about. Yeah, I mean, as much as you can feel good about paying $900.
Yeah,
for a
I
whiskey,
agree, man.
This is something that is just, you're not buying a bottle like this because it's a name brand hype. You're buying this because you know how special of a bourbon this is and what it tastes like.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I couldn't be happier. I mean, I think for us to be able to, really stumble across these. I mean, we've been in these rick houses and have seen these bourbons for a couple of years, and pretty well have begged, hey, we're interested. Do you have a sale price? And it was always a resounding no. We're not selling. We've had these, and I don't know if persistence or just they were tired of us bothering them or whatever it was.
Like,
but they finally
it's not bothering us. Here, have a barrel or two. Right?
We'll let you taste 2 of them, and they did, and so we ended up with both of them. Like I say, I couldn't be happy. But the thing about it is this is part of our exceptional series. I don't know what else. We might not do another exceptional release until mid 25 because you have to find it. Now the bar is there.
Yeah.
The bar is here, and so some of these fantastic 12, 13, 14-year-old whiskeys, they're fantastic, but they're not gonna get into our exceptional. We have an exceptional, and then we have a definitive series. Our definitive series is for our bottle club. Our bottle club kind of goes hand in hand with the club. You buy a bottle of whiskey or wine a month, and the definitive, usually they get first priority, and then after about a month, we'll sell it to the general public. But it's been pretty good because the bottle club has pretty well sold it out. The first, we've only done, we just did our 3rd one, and so they sell out pretty good.
Is being a part of that versus like a club member, is that all like in one, or are those 2 separate things?
No, 2 separate. You can absolutely be in the bottle club. We have a ton of. We started a bottle club. Chris kind of put that together. I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, maybe 6 months ago, with that idea of this was kind of the gateway, kind of the if you were interested in membership, but you just kind of wanted to dip your toe in and see what Watch Hill Proper was all about. He made it to where you can get into this, and it always falls in the $60 to $90 range. There's no, you're not going to be hit with the $220. It's our release. It could be a barrel pick that we may have done. We sporadically we will enter, like we've done, Elijah Craig picks and Knob Creek picks, and occasionally we'll put those in there as the monthly pick. But Chris has a way of finding really good wine deals too. He's a wine guy at heart, and so he finds some really good deals. I mean, he's beaten some of the big box stores. He's beaten their price by $15. So that could be the pick. So you got to get, and we have, other things on the site as you're picking whatever you want for that monthly pick. You can add picks that we've done or other bottles. So it's pretty cool, but it's kind of a gateway to membership to Watch Hill Proper.
Okay. All right. And so, and as far as like memberships, like right now, actively open, people can come in and still kind of be part of that. Okay.
Yeah, man, for sure. We don't know where that number is. We shut membership down one time about a year ago, or maybe 15 months ago. We had 300 members, but we didn't know where the line was.
Right.
So we shut it down at about 300 members or 300 memberships, because that could be spousal membership or corporate. Mm-hmm. And so we let that ride for 6 or 8 months, and it wasn't enough. And so we opened it up. We ended up with a wait list of people wanting to get in. And it's like, we have 80 people on a wait list. Why are we not letting them into the club?
Right.
And so we opened it back up, and we've had it open now. I don't even really know where our membership is. I think we're probably somewhere between 500 and 600 members now.
Okay.
I don't think that that's even the number. I think there may come a time in 25 where we may shut it down for a month or two just to kind of figure out exactly where we are. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the cap is. I don't know if the cap is 1,000, 1,500. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we're almost in an hour. I'll give you guys another couple minutes to get in on for tonight's giveaway. But as far as kind of where things are now and kind of where you're kind of hoping for things to go for Watch Show proper, what does the future kind of look like for you, or what's your hope for that?
So, oh man, I was getting ready to just tell a big old lie, but I'm not going to do it. I was getting ready to say I'm going to announce that we are opening up Mississippi proper here in a year, but I'm not going to do that because then I don't know.
Hey, if you got something you want to reveal, that you feel free. You share whatever information you want. This is very valuable information. Feel free to share.
I will tell you that we have been Nashville onces. Nashville, they want Nashville proper, but without the vintage law, I don't really know exactly how we would do it. But anyway, I think now our concentration is going to be the Bottle Club. It's where like I'm kind of gearing myself into that and taking care of our barrels. We've acquired quite a few barrels. We have them in probably 4 or 5 different locations. At some point, I want to consolidate a lot of them. I don't want to consolidate all of them. I love that they're aging in different terroirs throughout the state of Kentucky, elevated, unelevated, valley, up on a hill. So I want some of them. So now, Chris and I do all the blends, or not all the blends. As of now, we have Josh has actually set in on 1 or 2 of the blends. We've had, random folks, friends of ours, just kind of sit in, and they may sit in on a blending session with us. That's where my focus is now, is being the apologist for Watch Your Proper and getting out, doing kind of what I'm doing here with you, which I'm very thankful. Thank you for having us on. We do appreciate it. But being and doing that and telling what we're about, and telling people that we're not a membership club. You can be an out-of-state member. Out-of-state member is probably the best membership in the whole thing because it's cheap. And you get X amount of visits per year for this, so it's, that's kind of where my head is right now is Bottle Club, working on blends, and just getting out and telling and talking about Watch Your Proper.
Yeah. Well, I love the idea of creating kind of your own blends. I mean, it makes it different and unique. And that is, I mean, as much as the single barrel is cool, I mean, blending and creating something your own with different parts is an awesome thing to do. So
it's fun, man. We have a blast doing it.
All right. So let's wrap her up. We'll pick a lucky winner. I've got a randomizer. Cool, man. I got a little randomizer. I'm going to pull up on the,
that's awesome,
on the screen here. Give me 1 second here. There we go. All right. So I'll share this and I'll shuffle it. So hopefully everybody can see the screen. Let me shuffle a few names. So we'll get that in there a few times. And
man, that is too cool.
Yeah. So this is everybody who kind of put their name in the hat, so to speak, tonight, all has an opportunity. So we'll give it one more shuffle, and then here's the spin. So good luck. Someone's going to be a super lucky, fortunate person. So
that's crazy. Roy looks like
Mr. Roy R. does cocktails. Thanks for being a part of that. So
that's too cool. Do you know Roy R?
I do know Roy, and
cool.
Roy's a great dude. He is down in St. Augustine, Florida. And I know he's a great guy, and he's been a huge supporter of the channel and a lot of part of the whiskey club and stuff that we run and all of that. So I'm glad to see Roy was the winner. So I'll have to reach out to him afterwards and see what he kind of thinks, and I can share his thoughts with you guys as well. So
you tell Roy. So if Roy ever makes it to Kentucky to Watch Your Proper, tell him to make sure that he gets a hold of me. I have something for him.
Oh, there you go, Roy. So there's your incentive to get out of Florida and get to Kentucky. So,
Absolutely.
and I'll say this from a selfish standpoint, whenever it is you go, Roy, you let me know because I want to go with you. So
Cool.
again,
Cool.
but hey, I appreciate your time. I appreciate Aaron for getting everything set up and all
Yeah,
of
for
this
sure.
and being able to share your whiskey, your passion, all of the information. And I'll say this again from my standpoint and from the outside looking in, you guys run an incredible business with the people, the whiskeys, everything that's there. When you go there, I think once you walk in the door, what you see, that is the expectation. I think you'll be extremely pleased with everything. It's an incredible place. And I try to get there every single time I go. It's an absolute wonderful place. It's welcoming. The
Thank
people
you
are
for that.
great. It's fantastic. So for anybody who's been, you guys know that I'm not BSing. For those of you who haven't been, when you go to Kentucky, make it a point to visit. I think you guys will truly appreciate it. So Tommy, thank you so much for joining tonight. I greatly appreciate it,
That
man.
was fun, man. I appreciate it. That was cool. Thanks for having us on and letting me talk about Watch You.
Absolutely. When I'm in town, I'll get in there and say hi to you.
Make sure you do. Yeah.
Well, hopefully you're there. So thanks, guys. I appreciate everybody for being a part of this, Roy. I'll get this out to you ASAP. Hopefully you'll enjoy it as much as we do. But everybody, thanks for tuning in tonight. Tommy, thanks for joining. Aaron,
sure.
Thanks for getting it all set up. But it'll be a couple weeks before we're on with the holidays and all that. But I want to say happy holidays to everybody. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Christmas,
but thank you guys for tuning in tonight. And we'll see you probably in a couple weeks. Cheers, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks.